The Echoes of Willowdale. Chapter 1. Moving in? As I stepped onto the creaky porch of my new home, a chill ran down my spine despite the balmy summer evening. Willowdale was supposed to be a quiet little town where time stood still, and I had hoped for some solace after leaving behind the chaos of city life as a college student. The old Victorian house, with its peeling paint and overgrown garden, seemed an unlikely refuge from the world. Yet here I stood, clutching my suitcase and trying to ignore the sense that something was amiss. I'd been drawn in by Professor Thaddeus's words during our conversation at the local coffee shop. "This house has a soul," he had said, his eyes twinkling with an otherworldly intensity as he handed me the keys. I took them, shaking my head to ward off any lingering superstition. Old homes always needed some TLC. That was all. Inside, thick dust cloaked every surface while shadows danced in corners where no light dared venture. Still, a sense of relief washed over me at finally having a place to call mine. My first night, as I settled into the musty quiet, an eerie stillness enveloped Willowdale streets. Darkness pressed around me like a living entity when I turned off the porch light. Outside, crickets replaced the distant hum of cars with their relentless symphony. My room glowed softly from a single lamp, casting eerie patterns on the walls. I unpacked amidst the shadows, listening for any sign of life beyond these walls, other than the occasional hoot of an owl or creaks that sounded more like groans than the house settling. A faint whispering began to weave its way into my consciousness, a soft susurrus, almost inaudible at first. I attributed it to the wind, or perhaps the ancient wooden floorboards. But as hours crept by and night deepened, the murmurs grew louder, each voice distinct yet indistinguishable. They spoke a language only known to themselves, their tones weaving an unsettling melody that seemed both melancholic and sinister. Heart pounding, I crept closer to the source, the walls. Leaning against them in the dark, my ear pressed against damp wood, I strained to decipher words. Whispers swirled around me, swirling like a maelstrom of forgotten memories. My mind conjured faces but saw none, just an endless tide of sorrowful voices. I fled back to bed, convinced it was just the house settling or wild imagination playing tricks. In the morning, the whispers subsided as suddenly as they began. Sunlight painted the room with a warm glow that banished the darkness. I shrugged it off as fatigue from moving. The days passed in an uneasy rhythm, days filled with classes and nights bathed in a fragile calm. But each evening, as dusk descended, the whispers returned, luring me into believing I was losing my mind. They spoke of love, longing, and desperation that chilled me to the bone. Weeks became months. Sleep grew fitful. Every sound from above seemed to hold an eerie portent. As the wind changed with autumn's arrival, so did the tones. Whispers turned to gasps for breath, like someone was running down corridors I couldn't see. I locked my door at night and checked the windows more times than was rational, but still woke up drenched in sweat every morning. The house had taken on a life of its own. Shadows moved of their own accord. It wasn't just paranoia. Others would think so, should they hear it too. In the silence after dawn, I'd listen for any response when calling out, hoping to catch a breath or echo. Silence always greeted my voice. One fateful evening, walking down Willowdale's main street after classes, locals offered nods and smiles that bordered on pity. "You'll get used to this place," one of them said, patting my shoulder as if sharing an inside joke. They knew more than they let on. I sensed it but couldn't pinpoint what, their gaze, their tone. That night, I waited until the darkness fell before approaching those walls once again. Whispers now a cacophony of sorrowful voices, laced with rage and longing. A name echoed out, a Sarah. My name. Heart hammering, I pressed an ear closer, this time recognizing the voice, a woman's. Lily, help us, it begged. Lily? The name seemed familiar, but why would it resound in these walls? I backed away slowly, stumbling on my own feet as they stopped, leaving deafening silence in their wake. I fled to bed, locking myself within rooms that felt increasingly small and watching for eyes in the darkness. But sleep eluded me. Instead, an image haunted my dreams. Lily's face, her eyes wide with a plea I couldn't understand. When dawn broke, it was overcast with a thick haze, a storm brewing, perfect to keep my secret. In the chaos of thunder and rain, the whispers disappeared. The first ray of sunlight seeped through the shutters. For an instant, the house remained still. I ventured into the kitchen, searching for solace in tea and routine, but something caught my eye. On the counter, a photograph tacked to a crumbling calendar from '54. Lily. The woman's face stared back, an unspoken plea etched on her features. A smile tinged with sadness as she held a child in her arms. My eyes wandered over faded headlines. Floods, fires ravaged Willowdale. Lives lost and love found amidst the devastation. Their stories tangled with heartbreak and joy. Lily. A chill crept up my spine as I removed it from the worn page, dust dancing in my touch. Something else caught my attention. A date on the calendar, September 13th, 6 months prior to the flood of '54. A knock startled me. Rain pounded against the roof. I opened the door to find Lily's face staring back. My Lily, and she was as ethereal as mist. You shouldn't be here, she whispered, passing a pale hand over her forehead as if wiping away tears. For all I knew, it could have been the storm playing tricks on me. She vanished into darkness before I found my voice or she noticed the color of my clothes. My mind spun tales in the rain that soaked night. The whispers were just an anomaly. Yet when I checked, the photograph was gone. Lily's image clung to my hands like a ghostly imprint. I'd have to find answers. Perhaps at Willowdale University's archives. Overcast skies had become the norm since that fateful flood. Drenched and shivering on the floor, clutching the photo, I vowed to unravel this mystery. Little did I know it would lead me down paths best left untrodden, into corners of my own mind where sanity teetered. As September 13th approached, each day brought more frequent, vivid dreams. Lily's tears staining the child's white shirt, faces watching from darkness that wasn't there. Chapter 2. Unseen Eyes. The whispers resumed with ferocity at dusk. I had grown accustomed to them, but still felt exposed. Lily haunted my dreams and awakened me before dawn with a touch that wasn't quite a touch. A brush of skin against my cheek as she whispered, "Find them." Faces began appearing, watching from every corner, studying me from behind shutters like specters in the night. I should have called it quits, but curiosity propelled me to dig deeper at Willowdale archives. Lily's story intertwined with countless others. Her tale became my obsession, love amidst tragedy and loss. Yet a single detail stood out, a child who perished while clinging to her. When I unearthed Lily's story, a black dot and white photo showed both in the rain. Their faces contorted with fear, their arms locked together as they drowned. She'd let go of the little one. They never resurfaced. Yet I found myself walking through town, searching for echoes of that child, Ethan. It was on my tongue when I collided with him under a gaze from an alleyway. His eyes were sunken and dark, He whispered, "Run." In the chaos of rain, I turned to flee. Ethan followed. "Lily's ghost haunts this place still," he said in hushed tones. I had to show him Lily's photo. He knew what it meant. Ethan seemed lost, another who'd seen things no one else could or chose not to. A town legend. Together we uncovered threads of heartache and tragedy, but each discovery only made the dream faces more real. Lily's story was a tapestry that bound Willowdale together in ways they couldn't articulate. I'd seen them watching from windows at night, Lily's children. Ethan too, though his eyes concealed stories beneath sunken orbs. Together we pieced together fragments of lives touched by love, loss, and the flood. Lily became their beacon of hope. Then there were the children she'd carried in dreams, their faces that watched me still. Ethan claimed he could communicate with them, be their voice to an audience who wanted peace. That night, I stood before those whispering walls as Lily had done so long ago, a ghostly chorus singing out my name until I lost myself in the cacophony of sorrow and longing. Ethan stood behind me, his eyes gleaming with tears I couldn't see. "Let them talk," he said, voice trembling. "Sarah, please help us find peace." For all intents and purposes, I was that Sarah, the girl who'd heard their plea for so long. But when the dreamer spoke, it was no longer a name. It was Lily's call for help. As the wind picked up in September, it seemed their voices were coming alive, their stories spilling out through me. Lily whispered my name, drawing closer with each passing night. Ethan by my side now, a reluctant medium between worlds and me. The flood loomed in our dreams. Then the day of judgment came when I walked those walls alone, faceless specters at an arm's length away. They were here, their stories woven into the very fabric of this town. Ethan claimed he felt them too, watching with eyes that never seemed to close. Together we'd find them peace. Little did I know Lily had become my guide in both worlds. Whispers no longer just a harbinger of what once was, but a plea for an end. Chapter 3. The Final Whisper. As autumn waned, the rain intensified, threatening the town's foundations and sanity. Ethan claimed he could feel their presence. I found myself at Willowdale archives, poring over accounts while they spoke through me, a torrent of emotions, love in the face of devastation. They want closure. When dawn broke, Ethan joined, his eyes sunken as ever, yet understanding shone from them. Lily's plea for help, her spirit trapped between worlds. The day of judgment drew near. Their voices rose with each passing rain that soaked day. "Please find a way," Lily whispered in my dreams, a voice no longer just an echo. As the flood loomed closer and faces materialized before me, whispers turned into pleas, then to urgent commands. Ethan could feel their desperation for peace. They wanted release. On September 13th, under heavy skies, I found myself at those haunted walls. Ethan beside me as Lily's spirit wove between us, pleading for closure. The flood of 54 loomed with a fury the town would never forget, a deluge that drowned them all. Lily and her child, Ethan too. The faces watched from behind a veil of raindrops on windows while Lily spoke. With her final breath, she'd taken in breath she could no longer hold, promising peace. Now she wanted out. As the rain intensified, I spoke, the words that bound us all, floods and fire, loss and rebirth. Ethan closed his eyes and whispered along with me. Ethan's hand in mine as Lily slipped from my sight, ethereal fingers grasping both of ours. Then there was only silence, a pregnant stillness that heralded an end to their vigil. Ethan exhaled heavily, the first breath in nearly 6 months. I felt a presence lingering, their collective spirits sated, moving into the rain that soaked distance, out of this world and toward redemption. In quiet moments, shadows on the street reflected off windows, watching me from what was once an alleyway. Ethan's eyes shone with tears. The child never spoke to us in that moment, just looked upon his parent. Their stories were now free to heal others. Lily would find peace, but they all needed closure. He took my hand. We walked away from the ruins into sunlit streets, the first breath of a new era. There was hope in their eyes as the wind carried what once held them back, a tale of love and loss that could guide others.